So the public libraries really are a great resource, and maybe now I understand better than some people why those bums are hanging out in there reading the newspaper. I would go to the science fiction sections and look up various science fiction authors, and that's part of how I figured out that different libraries have different collections. I was reading people like Robert Heinlein and Frank Herbert and Ray Bradbury and some of the classic science fiction people. 1981, mind you. Some of the newer breed had not come along at that point. I think William Gibson's one of the first ones, and probably was out with a few books by then, but was still a relatively new author. I remember discovering Philip K. Dick on the road, that he is a very exceptional science fiction author too. Interesting life. Lived in California. And I don't remember that it was Sacramento, but it may well have been Sacramento Library where I read one of the first Philip K. Dick books that I read. And his book, Do Androids Dream Electric Sheep, the book that Blade Runner was based on, one of the finer science fiction movies ever made. Ridley Scott was the director. Harrison Ford and Rutger Hauer were actors, and who was Daryl Hannah, I think, was in it. A couple other actresses of note. Really great movie, and that was based on his writings, Philip K. Dick's science fiction book. Man, what is it with all the airplanes this morning? It's early morning. It's like about it's like about 5:30, 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. And they're just flying overhead like nobody's business. So, I highly recommend anyone in any town, at any time or point in their life, to check out your public library, your local public library. They've got lots of resources there. There's all kind of information you can look up. Another thing while I was there, if I thought about it, would be to look up things like where different sport arenas, stadiums were galleries, art galleries, and museums, or any other kind of like monument or site of interest. If I knew there were such sites in such towns, I would look those up too. So it's endless amount of benefit you can get from your public library. Go to your public library. But there in Sacramento, I think probably I did spend some time at the public library. And I may be getting it confused. This is a different story. I may be getting it confused with another town, because I know that there was another town that had a similar thing happen. But I believe while I was in Sacramento, there may have been a murder that I'd heard about. I didn't see anything. I wasn't involved in it. They have a real nice park. I think it's called Discovery Park, or maybe the America Park. I don't know. It's there a little bit north of downtown, and it's like where the two rivers meet in Sacramento. One of them being, I think, maybe the Sacramento River and the American River, or whatever, coming into it, or vice versa, the American River and Sacramento coming into it, whatever. In that V part was a park, big park. And I think I hung out there a little bit. That was another thing I like to do if I could get a book. And a lot of times I bought books, paperbacks, from used bookstores. You get them from half price a lot of times. I recommend those too. Check out your used bookstores. But I'd hang out in the parks and read a book and have, a nice day of it that way a lot of times. And I don't remember exactly the circumstances, but it seems like one way or another I heard that a murder had occurred there while I was there, either in the park or somewhere in Sacramento, somewhere near where the street people went. I don't know that I was supposed to have been there anywhere near where it happened, and I don't remember seeing or hearing anything about it other than someone just relaying it to me verbally, telling me about it. But that was a weird thing. Scary, kind of, because when you're on the street, you're vulnerable that way. I didn't hear about a lot of people getting hurt or killed, but fights and things happen, and you killed on the street, what will happen? Who's there to defend you or remember you or anything? It can be kind of tragic. But I didn't have any real trouble myself. I was all right, and I don't hold that as thinking of Sacramento as being crime-ridden or anything. I don't believe that's the case at all. In fact, I think it was one of the prettier cities as far as being kept clean and nice and having nice facilities and whatnot. But I probably only stayed there about a week or two maybe. And at one point I started to hatch the scheme that I was going to try to go to Hawaii. It occurred to me at that point, after Yosemite and after seeing Sacramento, that if I was going to go someplace I could choose to go, I would choose to go to Hawaii. But how do you work that out? And so at some point while I was in Sacramento, I met this guy. And I don't know, I don't even remember his name. I wouldn't know him from anybody now if I even saw him. But he was a young guy like me, white guy, thin, average height, I guess, dark hair. That's about all I remember of him. Kind of a street punk, breaking into cars and breaking into houses. And I don't know, I just met him in the soup line. I didn't know he was doing all that kind of stuff. But then after hanging out with him for a while, he started talking about this and that thing he'd done. Had a little knapsack one day. I think he'd come up to me with the knapsack and pulled out a camera and I don't know, one or two other little petty little items. And we didn't have digital cameras back then. This would have just been a 35mm camera. But stuff like that, and I don't know, some way or another I figured out, or he told me, he was breaking into places, or breaking into cars and stealing this stuff, and making money that way, go down to the pawn shop or fence it or something. I don't know. I don't know how deep into any kind of organized crime he was. He probably didn't have a real fence, but he might have known somebody that would buy stuff, so. One way or another, I ended up hanging out with him for a little while. I didn't witness him committing any crimes, although I think at one time or another he may have tried to recruit me to be a lookout or something, but I don't remember that we actually did anything like that. The one thing I do remember we did was that he was saying that people can go to Hawaii if you're on the road. If you get up the money, it's about $135, I think he said. You get the plane ticket, and at that time, I don't know what it was, but it was only $135. That seemed almost obtainable, even from the street. But he said if you got the plane ticket to get you there, then you could hang out for a little while. But by the time the authorities figured out you were homeless or you were on the street, they didn't call it homeless then. It wasn't an issue yet. I was homeless before homeless was cool. But he said if you were on the street in Hawaii and they figured that out, the authorities would pay to fly you back to the States, the mainland, to get you off of Hawaii, to get you away from Hawaii. So all you needed was the one-way ticket there. You didn't have to have a ticket go home. And then I guess the philosophy is if they don't send you back, then you're still in paradise, you know. So that became a vague plan in my mind, was some way to figure out a way to get to Hawaii and then worry about that after I got there. And I never did. I never got there. But that was something I thought about, and this guy kind of helped me, I guess. He may have even been the one who started the brainstorm that this is how you do it. A little street punk, thug, thief. He was alright. He was a nice enough guy. He didn't do anything bad to me. And I don't know that he committed all these other crimes. It may have seemed that way, but it might have been his camera. He might have been trying to put on some sort of attitude or toughness that wasn't really there. Like I said, I didn't see him commit any, so. He was the one, however, who helped lead me to the first time that I ever got on a train, a freight train. First time I ever hopped a freight or hobo. And that was when we were trying to get out of Sacramento to go to San Francisco. The idea was we'd go to San Francisco, get on the welfare there, and get money enough through welfare and or maybe working day labor or whatever we could to buy that $135 ticket to fly to Hawaii. That's a plan. And the way we were going to get to San Francisco was we were going to hop this freight. Well, he was the first one that told me that most freight yards are lined up. And, you know, if this occurred to you, then it's just logical. But they're lined up so that the tracks that are on one end of the yard go that way. Tracks on the other end go that way, or go that way, or go that way. So if you want to go west, you go to the west end of the yard. How logical is that? You go to the west end of the yard and you pick a train that's leaving out the west end. Now you don't always know exactly what cities it'll go through, but it'll take you maybe hundreds of miles west. So we were hanging out near a railroad track, which was outside of the yard. We weren't even trying to go in the yard. He'd warned me against the yard bull or security people there. Some of them were worse than others, but if they found you just wandering around, most of them would run you out. They consider it, I guess, a liability, safety factor. You can't hang out in the train yard. It's a dangerous place. It can be. So anyway, we were on these tracks heading west out of Sacramento, which would be toward San Francisco, and he told me, come on, come on. The train was going, and it wasn't going real fast, but I'm guessing 10 miles an hour, maybe better. And this is a big, brutish train, man. You ever been close to a train, looked at those wheels going around, those metal wheels on that metal rails? Hear that hissing and air brakes and stuff going on, and shuddering when it would, sometimes the back end would catch up with the front end a little bit, they'd shudder a little bit, and it's moving, and you gotta run up beside it and try to grab hold of the ladder or little rails, little handholds they have on the side, some of them, and try to swing yourself up into the boxcar. Those movies that show the hobos and all doing all that, they probably shot those scenes several times before they got it right. And Lord knows, if the actor was actually running up alongside that train, jumping on that train, that was a brave actor, I'm going to tell you, seriously. Jumping on a boxcar is not easy. Not if it's moving. There's nothing easy about that. Anyway, I crapped out. I told him, no, I can't do this. I think I might have ran a little ways and then just said, no, this ain't working for me. And so I don't think he went either. I think he stopped and hung back. And one way or another, we got to San Francisco together because we hung out in San Francisco for a little while. He knew some people and got up with them, and we hung out in an apartment there for a few days when I first got to San Francisco. But that's another long story, and we'll get to that somewhere down the road. But, check out Yosemite National Park. Go by Sacramento, California, get a chance. Both are great places to go to visit, to live, if you can, or, go back multiple times. Memorable places that I have been when I was on the road as a young adult, early 1980s, 1981. That's all for now. Enjoy.